All right. I'm at the Red House with Rashad Little. Thank you for coming over, and
Peace.
I'm really looking forward to whatever it is we're going to talk about.
Same. Same. On this rainy, beautiful day.
Yeah, it is rainy, and Marvel is wanting a chocolate donut that she can't have. So let's start with. I'm sure we'll devolve and evolve into all sorts of different areas in this conversation, but
Yeah.
one of the more obvious places for us to start would be if you could tell me sort of the back, as knowing that you already have before in the past, but again, if you could share with me some of the backstory of what you do, especially centered around Candid Yams and the way that that project has developed over the years.
Yeah. So I developed this business, Candid Yams Kickback, because I wanted to feel. We talked a little bit about that, but the backstory to all of that is I went to a graduation in D.C. and we did an impromptu cookout in D.C. After my buddy's graduation, and people were just pulling up on motorcycles and coming from any and all places, and we just had this wonderful cookout in the middle of DC. And I just remembering how much I miss being in college and being around my college friends. But it was like my college friends 2.0. It was like they had evolved and grown so much since the last time I'd seen them, from financials to getting married to having kids and traveling and accepting new jobs and all of that. And I was like, man, I wonder if I can bottle this up and really have some special place where we can do this all the time. And so at the time I dropped I was developing an app called and I don't think I've ever told you this before, but I was developing an app because I was in Winston at that time in my late 20s and trying to figure out like what bar to go to. But when I went to the bar, I never knew what the hell I wanted to drink. And so I was like, damn, man, I wish there was an app that I could like pick a spirit and, and do like a randomizer where it would mix a cocktail for me and, just tell the bartender that's what I wanted or whatever. So I was like, man, I'm going to develop an app. Because at the time, it was a very appy type of environment. So I was like, man, I'm going to develop this app called Straight No Chaser, right? Where it did just that, like mix the drink, any spirit that you want. It would give you all the best cocktails in the world for that drink. Man, I developed the app, wrote it all down, researched, spent about two and a half months on it, lost my entire notebook and the book bag that it was in.
Oh, man.
So then I was like, well, shit. Now I have to figure out, a different idea. So I started to develop the app all over again. And then I was like, man, well, at that time I was doing real estate and I was going to a lot of meetings, shaking hands and getting business cards. And, it seemed like I was doing more shaking hands and business cards than I was actually closing deals. And so at home at night, I'd have this stack of business cards, but I didn't know who the hell any of these people were because, in networking functions, you just shaking hands and saying what's up. But I mean, you don't really know these people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that annoyed me because it was like, I would love to get to know a Tyler, but I don't, which one is he in this group of cards? And so I was like, all right, man, I want to develop something candid. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, man, what type of environment are people like the most relaxed? And it's usually around family, around food, around music, or at least that's what I had experienced the whole time. Just growing up and everything, is that people are the most relaxed when you're around people that are familiar to you.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that. And so I started to develop, candid moments with friends and all of that. And so at that time, I had always been into documentary and film and all of that. And so I was like, man, I wonder if people would come out and just watch a film and, listen to some dope music and, and vibe out. So I hit my buddy up down at Underdog Records, and I was like, because he was just opening his shop, and I was like, yo, I got this idea for this show or for this, event or whatever, but would you mind hosting it, or can I host it here? And he was like, yeah, man, come on through. So I told my mom, and my mom was like, that sounds like a good idea. I think you should do that. And when your mama say something, So I invited about 25 people, man. They all showed up. We watched a film called Time is Illmatic featuring Nas. It was Nas's story. And had it in a vinyl record shop on March the 16th, 2016.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So had the event, watched the entire documentary, and people just felt those vibes. Some people bought some vinyl records, and so that was business for him. So that ended up becoming my formula, like literally hosting it inside of a small business, inviting people, and it just grew and grew and grew. And now we're at the point now where I was telling you off show that I figured out that Candid Yams, because of the spaces that I hosted it in, now is a part of what you call experiential marketing, where people can feel different things. I can't remember the name of that outfit. So Far Sounds. Have you heard of So Far Sounds before?
I don't think so.
So Far Sounds would take a space like you have here, but you'd have 100 or so or 150 people in this space, and they would have bands that they call in to play in front of those people in these intimate spaces. And so they've hosted people like Aloe Black in a space. Do you know who Aloe Black is?
Nah.
I'm gonna turn you on to him. He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
I'm realizing how much I'm asleep on right now.
Oh no, it's good. So anyway, just having intimate moments with intimate in intimate spaces was like my thing for Candid. And it was a real grassroots approach because as a business owner myself, I know how hard it is to not only find out and discover other people's businesses, but it's also hard to get to crowds that you may not interact with on a daily basis. So Candid Yams is one of those things that I use as a networking opportunity to meet so many different types of people, because as I was telling you, I think people coming from different walks of life is what makes a life. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if all I know is people in East Winston and I never go to West Winston, you could be missing out on a great opportunity to connect with somebody that's cool and could show you some cool shit as well. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I just think that we've been conditioned a little bit in our society to not be in different, areas. But for me, I that's never been who I am. I've always kicked it with Asian people. I've always kicked it with Indian people and all of that. Like I've always been that type of guy, but I've always been able to stay authentic as well. Cause I show up as Rashad. That's the only way I know to show up. I show up as me. And so, yeah, man. So that's basically the origin of Candid Yams. And so now, going into the years to come, I really want to develop the show into a 4-city tour type of thing where I only do 4 shows a year, but they're big shows. And I have them in, like the DCs of the world, North Carolina, of course. I may do Texas and do it like in Atlanta or something like that. But I really want to get it out into different spaces because everybody wants to talk about a film, music, that sort of thing. But I also want to be inside different cultures while I do it too.
Yeah. So that touches on a lot of probably what we'll talk about throughout the conversation. So to give a kind of a further understanding of what Candid Yams at least has been in my witnessing of it.
Yeah.
So when I was working at Aperture running projection and stuff, I witnessed one of these events where from what I gathered of it at the time, there were sort of there was like a curated, edited sort of playlist of pieces of a film. The one that I saw was from Baby Boy. Yep. And so then with you and with other like panelists involved, I think, there was a conversation that was facilitated from watching pieces from the film. And I don't know exactly how many, I don't know what people, I'm assuming that people came knowing that some conversational aspects would be there. But so anyway, that would happen. Then some points of discussion might come up and you would actually talk. And what I found so fascinating about it and actually like moving about it was much like therapy. It was like adults sitting in a room talking about adult issues with each other, but in a very vulnerable, candid way, in a very open way that was like, I don't know, shit that adults sometimes don't want to admit to each other about persona and about culture and about sort of how we function in the world and stuff. You guys were just really talking openly about this stuff. And I just, from where I was, I imagine that this was a very, meaningful experience for those in attendance. Yeah. And so that's what I saw of Candid Yams. And is that kind of, I don't know, is that still consistent with sort of the way you see it going in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the bedrock of Candid Yams. I mean, honestly, that's an awesome testimony. We'll probably clip that up, and I'll use that later on. But that's an awesome way to describe it. Because what I experienced, man, after undergrad was like, life is some bullshit, yo. Like, you will go through so much shit in life. Like, what the fuck? What is this? Like, what what is happening now? You know? And it's like, damn, man, like, you got to pay bills and shit. You got to get up and go to work and all this bullshit. And it's just like, damn, man, I can't be the only one going through this shit. Like, you know? And so film is a perfect medium for me to pick a conversation to be able to go through, because you could pretty much carry on with any human condition through health, wealth, love, and happiness, right? Because everybody's got a condition, you know, with health, or, you know, everybody wants to lose weight, or, you know, look better, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Love, if you're not married or you don't have kids and all of that, or you know, it doesn't have to be negative. You could have found love, you know, after having some terrible relationships or whatever have you. Everybody's got a touch point that, you know, you can use to have that. But I wanted to talk to you about this in terms of the therapy piece. So me being me, I was like, man, I'm trying to, this is also since 2016. What we're in 2023. So how many years is that?
Like seven. Yeah, 7-ish.
So
like
seven plus years of me trying to figure out what the hell Candid Yams is.
Yeah.
Right. And one day I'm sitting in my house, and again, this is what I was telling you off cam, or, you know, off the show or whatever, about like staying curious with your mind and how powerful that actually is, right? Always asking questions about where you are, what you're doing, who you're doing it with, that sort of thing. And so I was like, man, this feels like therapy, right? Feels like, you know, you're going to a session with film and all of that. I wonder if there's like film psychology or something like that, right? So here I am on my Googles, just, you know, film therapy, film psychology, and film therapy is actually a thing. It was developed by a woman. Her name is Dr. Maria Grace, and she is out in California. And the only reason I know that is because I Googled her and her book came up on Amazon, to which case I ordered the book. And when I got the book, there's so much stuff in there that described not only what I was feeling as a human being, but it also gave me so much foundation as to me being in the right place, right? So I go and look all of that stuff up, and I find like this curriculum for, you know, how to teach professionals how to use film psychology, like that are in the psychology field. And I get to the end of it, and there's a cell phone number and a email address in there for Dr. Grace. So I was like, well, fuck it. Let me call her. Call her up. It rings and rings and rings and rings. Message comes up. Hey, this is Dr. Maria Grace. You know, I'm away from the phone right now. Leave a message. Da, da, da. I leave a message. She calls me back the next day. And I'm like, yo, this is Rashad Little. I present myself as people who have met me before. And so she was like, hey, how you doing or whatever. And so I explained to her Candid Yams, and I explained to her how I got to her book. And so she was like, oh, so you're having like live discussions? And I was like, yeah. And she said, oh, I did that in the 80s. I can tell you everything about that. And so that is what I mean about connecting with people, because there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, let's just keep it hot. I'm just presenting in this millennia of, you know, age and all of that. But people have done this, you know, because people have always wondered, in my opinion, how to get through life. How to have a better life if your life sucks, right? How to make more money, how to be a better husband or wife, or how to be a better mom, how to raise your kids, you know, differently, and so on and so forth. So when you're sitting in that crowd, and I pick a film like a Baby Boy, or I pick a film like Star Wars, like we were talking about, I'm always looking to pull the gems out of that film that all relate to us as human beings.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter what film you watch. Shit, we could be watching Terminator, and I could find, you know, something that is relatable to all of us, you know. At least guys, I could talk to guys all day about being a badass wearing a damn leather jacket on a damn Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You feel what I'm saying? It's like, damn, man, that shit is like, that's hard body, you know? And it's like, have you ever felt like, when have you felt the most badass in your life? That's probably what you should be doing. Fuck that factory work. Go do the thing that makes you feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger on a damn Harley Davidson. You know what I'm saying?
Man, you just touched on two really good things. One, I really liked that you said something like that we're all trying to figure out how to live, or something like that. And I was kind of about to ask, you know, what do you think story, like the fact that movies are stories that play out in front of us, you know, what do you think about that? And I think you answered that with that statement. I think that's kind of part of what that's all about, right?
Right.
And the second thing was just that, like seeing something, seeing behavior that makes you feel a certain way. Like that seems like there's something to that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm making some observations about everything you just said.
Yeah, no.
And like so with the film psychology thing where you finally landed,
Yep.
I guess, was there anything from that it started to inform you about what you were doing, and
Yeah.
what did it tell you, I guess, about film psychology, and like what did it complete for you about your theories about that?
So it completed for me that films can be used in the human condition. And it confirmed for me that there was a space that someone had explored already. And it wasn't like I was just this crazy ass dude just out here talking about film and conversation as if it didn't relate to human life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because also the one thing, I'm one of those guys that I'm Mr. Figure Outable, right? I'm going to figure out something, you know? And for me, it was like film was developed from a script. A script was usually developed from some awesome book somebody read. That book was written by somebody that had an imagination. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, that imagination and inspiration was inspired by them living a life.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's how movies are produced. You see.
Yep.
And so it just became so, I just felt connected at that point, because now the films that I'm watching are directly connected to a human emotion that not only I have, but I can share that with other people that have the same type of human, connection or emotion to a film. But they connected with that because of the things that they were actually living in their life, right?
Yeah,
and so for me, I just felt like it connected me further to the type of thing that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. So again, talking to you about like experiential marketing and being in what you call impact communities, because I'm also a marketing advertiser. So now it makes me a better advertiser, because now there's this thing called psychographics, right? Where you are connected to the spirit of someone that makes them, it's the spirit of the consumer that makes them want to buy this, right? So now, again, studying advertising is all about not writing to the people that don't want this. It's about writing to the people that think that this is the shit. So we were talking about Fleetwood Mac before you came on, right? So if we were selling Fleetwood Mac T-shirts, we wouldn't be talking to people that like Prince per se, right? We'd be writing to Fleetwood Mac people, which, if we were writing an advertisement for, to sell Fleetwood Mac T-shirts, we'd be listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac. We'd be getting into the lyrics. We, really try to get down into the psychographics of their audience and who they attract, so that when we write words, we're communicating an emotion from one screen to the other. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you just pointed out, which is like something that especially maybe people who aren't involved in the arts, they might sleep on this fact sometimes, which is not to necessarily make a big distinction between the two, but it's just like, it's important to realize, like, arts just come from other people. They just come from people, and there's no, I can remember memories in my life where people where maybe I wanted to do something and people might have suggested, that's not something you're going to do, because people who do that are very committed to that. It's like a part of their lifestyle, and they sort of they put it in my head like, you don't get to do that. Only certain people do.
That's correct.
And I think a lot of people think that about art, and a lot of people think that about using creativity to process their emotions, you know? And as you just pointed out, like, there's not a special permission that you have to do it. Like,
no.
It can be a really difficult thing to get good at it or different shit like that, but all of us process our emotions in certain ways, and some people do it through music, and some people do it through film.
That's correct.
But if you can access the arts, you have every permission as anybody else to do this stuff, to get creative.
Yeah, for sure. I think anybody breathing is a creative, to be honest with you, because all of us see our lives going a certain type of way. And once you could be a math whiz, right, and see your life in a certain type of way. You'll read something, you'll go and meet people, you'll study something that, continues your journey of like getting better at what you want to get better at.
Yeah.
And people don't often write that off as, oh, I'm not a creative. But how did you get to this job? Tell me why you were interested in working at Saks Fifth Avenue. Tell me why you were interested in working at Bank of America or whatever have you. What excites you about this area? And if you ask somebody to tell you their story, watch them craft a dream for you right in front of your face. And they'll be like, oh, damn, well, that's where I started. I was good at mathematics when I was a child. I used to love to do this. You know, it really excited me to do this. So you created a life from 9 years old. You're now 37 or 36 or whatever, and you're telling me that you're not a creative.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I've known some people over the years who they just say, well, one was my basketball coach. He said to me just point blank one time, I am 0% creative. Mm-hmm. If you ask me to try to sort of abstract or picture something or do implement a vision, it's going to be hard. Yet he was a great salesman. Mm-hmm. And that was his craft. And I think whether he knew it or not, or whether he would call it that or not. And I talked to somebody about this last week, like, you know, whatever. I think I agree. Like, I think people are competent or creative in different ways, and they don't think of it as creativity because they're not making a piece of art or something.
That's
but
correct.
Yeah, man, I think salesmanship is a creative endeavor.
The art and science of it, because
Absolutely.
that involves so many different components.
Absolutely.
One, the words that you come up with to talk to somebody. It involves body language. It involves knowing and understanding that body language and what people are saying to you without you saying it, that sort of thing. I mean, it's a wonderful art form, to be honest with you, to be a salesman, because you got to also go through rejection, because humans love to say no, you know. And so you make it through that, and you made a sale. People like him will never go broke because he can sell anything. You know what I'm saying? But people like, I had to develop that craft, right? I'm good at doing what I told you I was talking about, right? But sales, because I'm in advertising and all of that, I have to sell my business to people. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because I know what I'm talking about in the background, right? I know what to sell, getting into psychographics and all that sort of stuff. But if I didn't go into it that deeply, I probably would suck at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sales doesn't feel like something that was my natural inclination. I think I thought that I could get by without having to learn that skill. And I think I've been realizing more and more that just is not in the, like, it's about being an artist and trying to like put yourself out there and market yourself.
That's correct.
It'd probably be a good idea to be able to sell yourself a little bit.
That's correct. But you got to be comfortable with the way that you sell yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, and I hesitate to say sell too, because it's like, everything about us when we show up, is a sales pitch, right? What you have on, what you talk about, who you talk about that to, what topics and stuff like that. I think, again, in our generation, we're more so worried about like who you are as a person. How did you get here? Really understanding your story, rather than just selling. The best deals are always made when, again, you're comfortable and you feel like you're being your authentic self and you're able to connect with other people that recognize that in you. So, yeah,
that's true. So, okay, before I forget, you mentioned the importance of like why, and I want to ask before we venture too far off from Candid Yams, sort of, and I'll preface the question by saying I get the impression from you that you're the kind of person, I could be totally wrong, but I get the impression that you might be the kind of person who knows sort of what your mission in life is, or what you like. You seem very intentional and very like, I don't know, like in like you seem like the kind of guy who chooses to be have a positive attitude and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if what about maybe the mission or vision you have for life led to why this Candid Yam thing's like why you want to take that mantle on and grow this thing.
Well, I'll say this, your mission in life is going to be probably the most confusing thing you'll ever take on. Because, most days you're not going to be as confident. You're not going to be happy most days because you just really spend a lot of time figuring it out, right? But if you only sign up for the figure-outable part and have fun with the figure-outable part, I think that you're ready to go on a journey. Because as I was describing to you, we were talking about Star Wars offline a little bit, and how the character of Yoda was developed, right? And saying to, I think it was Luke Skywalker, he was saying this too, but he basically was like, if you or peace in a warrior's life is a luxury, and we should all probably embrace the war more than anything else, because the war is what is going to make you the person that the person that you are, so that you can enjoy peace, right? I.e., if you sign up for something that you want to do in life, be excited about the trial and error and everything that you're going to learn from the trial and error, instead of being excited about what you can get from whatever you create. So for some of us, it's a car, or clothes, or travel, or money, or whatever. Who did you have to become to do that? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, but your original question was what again? I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to know about the why that's underneath all this stuff.
So, to be quite candid with you, I grew up in a single parent household, and I had a lot of questions. Why my mom and dad broke up? Why did we go with my mom as opposed to going with my dad? Was this only happening to our family? Was it happening to a lot of families? Why did we live in High Point, North Carolina, instead of like San Antonio, where my mom was from, right? Do other kids want to do this, right? I've always been a very inquisitive person.
Yeah.
So my why has always been developed from curiosity and inquisitiveness, to be honest with you. Why are there white kids? Why are there black kids? Why are there Hispanic kids? Where do they come from? What side of town do they stay on? Why do I ride this bus? Why are buses yellow? Right? I don't understand. What's going on here? You know what I'm saying?
Is there any patterns that you notice? You're kind of questioning them?
Not earlier on. I just always knew that because I was inquisitive, I knew that I was already different from everybody else, because most kids at that time just went with the flow. Like, I'll give you an example. My mom would come up to my elementary school, because they would call her all the time about me getting up and talking to people in class, right? I mean, I'm just working the classroom like it's some damn comedy show or something. You know what I'm saying?
I can just see it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was so interested in people. What made you get that pencil sharpener? Where'd you find this trapper keeper at? Why do you carry a duffel bag to school as opposed to us carrying backpacks? Where'd you get your backpack? How did you put this outfit together? Where'd you get those Nikes, man? Those are cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just going around the classroom talking to kids, right? And so they would always be, calling my mom, and she'd come up to school, and they'd be like, man, he's a good kid. He's just, disruptive. He's always, doing this and that. And, we have to, talk to him several times a day about talking to other kids and, distracting them from their work, quote unquote. And so my mom would always get on me about this, and I was getting whoopings and, all of this, just, all this shit happening because I was inquisitive, right? And so one particular time, my mom comes up to the school, and they're asking her why am I so disruptive and everything. She just kind of stops me in the tracks. This is probably like the fourth or fifth time this has happened. And so I've always been strong-willed too. So like, I knew that I was going to go through some shit, being who I was, but I was just like, I'm going to be who I am. So
yeah,
whatever. But anyway, they asked her, they was like, she stops me in the tracks, and she's just like, she said, wait a minute, let me ask you something. When he's up and around and kind of like talking to everybody, has he finished his work? And she was like, well, let me see. That's a pretty good point. So I had aced all of my work, and I'm just up around. She was like, he's bored. He doesn't have anything to do. Like, I came into third grade, and this lady said, yeah, we're going to learn cursive writing today. I was like, that's it. She was like, yeah, we're going to learn how to write our names in cursive and all this. But my mom had already taught me that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, lady, I don't know what to tell you. This ain't going to take me all day, And so what I ended up having to do was I had to start writing book reports and reading those book reports and book reviews to kids that were younger than me. So I was in the third or fourth grade at this point. And I found myself like spending time with kids on carpets, me in the stool like the teacher used to be back in the day, and reading to these kids.
Really?
Yeah.
At that young of an age?
Yeah.
And that mimics so well what you do with Candid Yams.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of, I mean, it sounds like it was just written in your personality to kind of take on that role and facilitate
Discussions. Yeah.
discussions like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know, man. It's just like, wow. And that, you know, at the time when I was going to church, I was always like reading the Bible in front of the congregation or taking on this and taking on that. So I developed very early on an affinity for talking to people in crowds, and it just didn't scare me at all. I didn't have like stage fright or anything. The one thing when if I'm having this conversation in front of thousands of people, to me, there's a me out there like me sitting up here, and I'm talking not only for me but for them as well. You know what I'm saying? Because there are a lot of people that don't get an opportunity to talk on a stage all the time, but they want to hear somebody that's real as hell talking about the things that they would want to get the answers to. You know what I'm saying? You ever been in a crowd and it's like, what the hell are these two people talking about?
Yeah.
I can't relate with this shit at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't be that person. Be the person that if you were in the crowd, you'd be like, yo, I really want to talk about that Star Wars shit. Come back to that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So when I'm having Candid Yams, I'm always thinking about those people. So my questions are all written to those people. The clips, all of these different things are written to that human condition where I would want to know this shit. Like, if I need to make more money, damn it, tell me how to do this thing. You know what I'm saying? Don't be up here damn giving me fluff. Like, just tell me how to do it. Because we don't have time to bullshit. Like, we literally have to like go through the trial and error piece, because that's the piece that's going to take the most time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could like if I said, Tyler, teach me how to play the guitar. You could teach me, but I have to go and practice that shit.
Yeah.
But if you said, yo, man, guitar is the most wonderful instrument in the world, man. We're going to start by, just looking at it, man. Tyler, if you don't get them damn picks out and put one in my hand, and let's go ahead and get down to this thing.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's how people are. People are impatient because they're very impatient on getting to their goal.
Yeah.
Right? So they're just there to get that information. Give it to them. You know what I'm saying?
It's fair. Yeah. Plus, we spend so much time, kind of, I don't know about everybody, but I know for me, I spend so much time kind of organizing my thoughts around my next move instead of making my next move. And it's like, if you just start acting instead of like thinking, oh, if I plan this out perfectly, if I order my philosophy perfectly, and if I study, like exercise was a big one. If I felt like I can't start working out because I don't know all the routines for working out. But and then like I was just keeping myself from doing it. And then I would I would Google things about exercise and shit like that. I would get the information, but still not feel like I could apply it because it was like I didn't know it enough. Yeah. And there's always that. And I think sometimes what that actually is instead of an act, I think we're tricking ourselves into just delaying the inevitable first move.
Because we don't like pain.
Yeah.
See, that's what it's about. Whether it's mental pain or physical pain, we don't want to do that because it costs us too much. Yeah. Because it's like, damn, that shit really hurt. That 3 miles really hurt. And it's like, well, it hurt because you're not in shape.
Yeah.
The point of you doing this is because you want to get in shape. This brings me to my next point, man. I was reading a book by David Goggins. You ever heard of him before?
Wait, David Goggins. Oh, the don't be soft, stay hard guy.
Yes. So I read his book. I just got to reading his book a couple weeks back.
I've heard great things about his book.
His book is phenomenal, and it talks a lot about mindset. So, and I actually listened to the Audible, which you should probably get that.
That's also what I've heard because his mom is in it, right?
His mom is in it. He has someone reading it, and he's being interviewed the whole time. So like when he talks about some grim ass story that he goes through, the dude like pauses and was like, "Yeah, David, so tell us about this." And he was like, "Yeah, man, I was fucking bleeding. I was about to die, man."
Oh man, I need to.
I was like,
that.
"Yo, what?" So dude is like, just a little tidbit about the book. It's a constant reminder that you can break through any barrier that you want to, if you want to. You know what I'm saying? Because when he showed up to Buds, or not Buds, but when he showed up to Navy SEAL to take the test and all of that, he was like 280 something pounds.
Yeah.
Right. And people that are in the military, you need to be a lot smaller than that to go through the actual training and everything. So he, like leading up to that, the hell that he had to put his body through, because he was already like 28 or 29 at that point, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, he had to change his diet and he had to do all this. But I bring that up to say this. Dude was like legit. I think he had failed the test maybe once before, and you only had twice to take it. And in between the first and second time is where we really learned about the trial and error piece in his life and breaking down the barrier, or removing what he calls in the book a governor from your mind. You have a governor on an engine. It can only go this speed, and when it gets there, it's only going to go here. Yeah. Well, he teaches you in that book how to remove that governor so you can keep going forward, right? Mm. But anyway, so between the first and second time that he took that test, he was a, what do you call it? A person that sprays bugs and stuff like that. What do you call it? Exterminator.
Oh, yeah.
So he was an exterminator, and hated his job. He was 280 pounds. He was scarfing down donuts and shit like that, like drinking milkshake, just really punishing his body, right? Mm-hmm. And as he's going from site to site, getting, bugs away from the site and everything. But he said he went in this particular restaurant one day after he had failed his first test, and he was kind of, talking himself out of going to the military. He was just kind of like, man, well, maybe the military is not for me. Maybe I should just really embrace the fact that I'm blessed enough to be working, that sort of thing. That shit that we do with our mind.
Yep.
When failure hits.
Yep.
And so he's going through that, and he's like, man, but I still hate this job, because it's just like rigorous. It's, you got to go and crawl up in these spaces that are just filthy. You get filthy, that sort of thing. So he's having that compromise in his mind. But what I'm about to tell you is a moment that everybody on planet Earth that's been doing something they just wasn't feeling has been through, and it was the legit turning point in your life. Now, we may not be able to catalog that moment all the time, because there's so many moments in life like that. Mm-hmm. But what I'm about to tell you now is like in that moment in the book, I was like, yeah, that's probably where I would have been like, fuck this, we are out, right? So he's in this restaurant. He done pulled this stove away from the wall, and there are these big cockroaches back there. And so he's spraying to get these cockroaches out. He sticks the sprayer back a little bit further and sprays into this hole where they're coming from. Man, he said, I hit the damn mother load, and that spray irritated them so much that they started coming out of that hole, and then you could hear them at the top of the roof, and it drops down on him.
Oh, God. Oh, Lord.
He said, bro, when you are running out of a place and you don't feel nothing but creepy crawlers all on you, man, he was like, I'm out. I am out. And I was like, I feel you, dog.
I would have been too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's like you get to that place, you're like, my life can't amount to this.
Yeah.
Now, come on now. I know I can do, I know I'm low.
Yeah.
But I can do better than this now.
I was in the quarantine days. Mm-hmm. I've told this story a few times on the podcast, and so I apologize for those who've heard it before, but I haven't told you about this. So, in my family, we come from my whatever old school type guys. My grandfather built a log cabin, and it was kind of this thing. Like, a couple of my family members have been good builders and stuff. And during quarantine, a lot of people, I think, were getting in touch with like primal sides of themselves and traditional sides of themselves and stuff. And I decided I wanted to get involved in the log cabin stuff and kind of explore a side of me that was a little more, I don't know, hard and masculine and fucking like building and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And develop this skill I didn't have, for building. Mm-hmm. I found this log cabin company that built old log cabins and stuff. They'd like buy these 200-year-old cabins and rebuild them into modern houses and stuff. Oh, nice. Uh-huh. It's kind of cool sounding. Really small crew of people. And I decided to go, I got in touch with them and I started working with them. I had some money from unemployment and stuff like that. I just had kind of a little stash, and I was like, okay, I can kind of do this job for a while and whatever, just float and see how it feels. So I did that for a while, and we were working on a cabin, and there was this guy, And it was just an interesting thing, man. It was around the time where I was really starting to get more clear about mindset and mindset informing your action or whatever. And I was like, my boss, we just didn't get along, me and my boss a lot of the time. It was a complicated thing, but I worked with this guy, Oscar, and Oscar was hardcore, man. Like he didn't have a stopping point. He didn't have a governor when it came to labor. He just could go and go and go. And he was like 52, but he just had worked his whole life, done all sorts of crazy shit, would tell me the wildest stories. And one day we were like framing out this wall for this little add-on to a cabin, and Oscar was shooting a nail gun and like just barely hit himself in the thumb with a nail that came through a wall. Took his glove off. His thumb was immediately swelled up and purple and bleeding. And I was like looking at it like, damn. And he put his glove back on and kept working. And I was like, I knew something was up. I in my mind, I was like, I wouldn't do that. In my mind, if I did that, if I shot a nail through one of my fingers, I would be probably done for the day.
Yep.
Also, started really thinking about my fingers. My dad had kind of put that in my head like before, but he was like, you play guitar, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, if you like lose a finger, that'll be a big deal. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And then when I saw that nail go through that dude's thumb, I was just like, it's a little more of a real thought right now.
Yep.
And we talked a while, and like I think it was around that same week, Oscar just was like, listen, man, like, you shouldn't be doing this. You have other things you can do. And
right.
Like, there's no, like, I don't know why you're doing this. And
right.
I never went back after I think it was that day that he told me that, or it might've been that week, but very soon after that conversation with him, I was like, yeah, I think I have to stop thinking of this as like it's okay for me to just stay here and waste time experimenting with this, because like time is valuable, man.
Yes.
Like fucking go pursue the thing you want to go pursue.
That's correct. And advising students has taught me this, right? It's the trial and error piece that really keep people from pursuing their goal. Like with Candid, in the early days, and even now sometimes when I'm introducing it in a new space, I know that I'm going to lose money or break even.
Yeah.
There's no if, and, or buts about it. It's going to happen. But if I set myself up to understand what I'm going to learn from this experience, it makes my second experience better. So I can only imagine if I did this for 7 days a week for the rest of the year, what I would learn, how far ahead I would be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think we are conditioned to ignore what we're supposed to do because it doesn't make money, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because it's like, well, how am I gonna feed myself if I don't do this, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't think about that. I think self-sustainment is ill, but do you really have to eat at Wendy's every day or eat out or whatever? Can you really like cut back from that so that you can invest in this, right? And then to your point with time, all of us throw away time like it's it's coming back, but we know that each day that rolls it's like not coming back. So like how much time do you really spend doing that thing, right? For me, Candid Yams is easy, but it'd be hard if I didn't spend the time doing it at first. Like to your point when you were talking about how I developed film, the clips and all of that. My first event, we watched the entire film, a whole hour and a half film, right? We watched the whole thing. And I was like, man, people's attention spans kind of just went in and out. And so I was like, man, maybe I should like just curate some clips and just, have the conversation about that. And then I said, well, let me try that. And I tried it and it ended up working for my formula, in terms of like having the conversation, because I don't know about you, but like we can talk about something until we're blue in the face, but the action is the piece.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
The thing is, after we have this discussion, I think I say it at the beginning of each one of my discussions, is like, hey, I structured this conversation so that you guys could take this information and actually implement it in your life. You see what I'm saying? Don't just sit here and have sedentary information that you're not going to actually put to action. But that's a difficult piece for us to understand because we spend so many years, the first 15 years of your life are spent in K through 12 education with you just listening to information.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So in the second half of your life, you're like, well, this is what I know how to do is listen, take in the information and go, right? We all know how to do that because we spent so much time doing that, which is the reason why the trial and error piece is so hard because it's like, well, that's not what our foundation is. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Which for me, and being in education and talking to students about this, is that, you almost have to get into a space where you're always pushing yourself past that governor piece because you know where the relaxed version of you comes from.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not until, because I'm an educator at heart, but like I figured out that our educational system has always been set up for us to go out and just get a job and work a job. Right. It's never been introduced to us to provide for yourself. Right. To, be an entrepreneur or whatever, or even not even just be an entrepreneur, but just learn the difference between in the industries being a specialist versus just a normal general worker. Right. Yeah. And if we're not even taught that, right? Because, specialists are the people that get paid all the money, and they don't always have to be heart surgeons or whatever have you. Like if we came out of school, I got out in 2004. If I came out of school and I knew that I could do copywriting, for instance, and I could earn $90,000 a year as a copywriter, that would have made like my life so much better.
Yeah.
The fact that I could use English language to sell. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel me? Like
when I was doing AV stuff at Benton for a while, it was annoying because I was basically a general dude. Right. I had to do everything, including be a C1, a camera one operator for events. Mm-hmm. But proper camera one operators, specialized that only do that, make a shit ton of money. But because I was a general person, I could do the same job, but not get paid anywhere near that. But yeah, I totally understand.
You see what I'm
saying?
saying?
Yeah.
But we're not taught how to do that.
No, not at all.
And again, here goes my questions. Why aren't we taught how to do that? It's like, why are we not taught how to do that?
Do you think everybody can be specialized?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. Because all of us have a specialization in us, right? But it comes after practicing. I'll give you a case in point. When I played football, I wasn't the fastest guy. I wasn't the strongest guy. But after I started playing football in the 7th grade, and at first I, was getting used to getting hit or, wearing my pads right and all of that. And as I continued to develop my skill with being a wide receiver and being around the team and everything, I started to understand how to read people, what their body movements were going to be. If I broke this way as a receiver, how they were going to break with me and break with that. So I started understanding body language. And what I ended up doing is developing a niche area that I was good at, and that was getting open. And so as long as I could get open, I could catch the ball, no problem. Mm. But if I couldn't get open, that was going to be an issue because I knew that, 90% of people were just faster than me, right?
I see. So
the more you do something, the better off you get at it, right? I won't go into the politics of all that, but basically, I get around to like my junior year, and I've been playing varsity football for a year. I came from freshman year, practiced to get on varsity, got on varsity my sophomore year because I was a great route runner and all of this sort of stuff. Get to my, the summer of my junior year going into it because after that I'd run indoor, outdoor AAU track, came back, so I was faster, I was, more in shape, so I was stronger. And we went to, do this passing league, and basically passing leagues are where you just wear your helmet and your jersey and you practice against other teams. I scored about maybe 5 touchdowns, just out there running routes and catching and, doing this. And my coach kind of looked at me like, I didn't know you had the ability to do that. Mm. Right. And it was kind of like, if I could relate it to somebody, Cooper Kupp, for instance, he's not like the fastest guy. You know who Cooper Kupp is?
I don't.
He's a wide receiver for the Rams. So okay. Wes Welker, those types of guys, they're smaller guys, but they can get open, they can catch, they can get it, in the end zone. And then before you know it, they're Hall of Famers, right? And it's like, I was like one of those guys. And so I knew that I learned from there that if you practiced at something long enough and kept your enthusiasm with it, you would eventually become really good at being good at that thing. But it's not until you get good at it that you understand what your strengths in that craft are.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That was my whole story. My analogy for that story is that if you practice at something, like, because it starts with initial interest. Do you want to play football? Yes. Do you like playing football? Yes. Do you like this position? Okay, cool. How much do you know about this? Right. And then you start practicing at it, and then you learn like the foundational level about it. Then, you learn route running. Then you learn, what catching is, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But then after you learn all those things, then you start doing it without even thinking about it. You do it so much that you can't get it wrong at this point. Right. But now, when you get good at all of that stuff, now you know that if you break left, you can catch it with your right hand. You don't need your left hand. You can catch it with just one hand. And then all of a sudden, you might go in the history books for catching the most one-hand balls, but you just like got good at understanding if I turn my body this way, like this, I'll be able to catch it. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So in life, just like you, if you would have, building houses early on, some people might struggle with just measuring stuff. Right. And, when you're little, your dad might have showed you how to measure. But once you have 10 years of measuring, you could look at something and be like, nah, it's a quarter of an inch. Go ahead and cut it right here. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And people are like, oh, man, I can't believe he knows how to do that. Well, it's because he's done it so many times.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching your grandmother cook or your mom cook. You're like, damn, you're not even using like ingredients to write anything down. They know how much is supposed to go in there.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing it for so long. So you think about, the question really then comes, what do you this whole snafu question is like, oh, well, what do you love to do for free? Right? But it's really, what are you excited to do that you could just do for hours?
Yeah.
Right? And for me, because of escapism, I could watch film for hours. The same film. Watch different pieces about it. Man, I'll be talking to you. Like right now, I'm talking to you thinking about 007 in the back of my mind. Timothy Dalton. I'm thinking about like this movie. I can't remember. I think it's called Living Daylights. I've been wanting to watch that movie for a couple of weeks. And I'm like, damn, I got to watch this movie because there's something in there that I'm missing. I could do that all day long.
That's interesting. Okay, there's three things that I want to think about. One, I want to revisit Yoda.
All right.
Two, I want to ask about specialization, and so help me remember these. And then three, something that you're missing. So that's three interesting things I want to touch on.
Okay.
But while we're on this, the idea of specialization. Obviously, we're in the midst of, I guess we're sort of in the midst of this cultural shift, I guess, with labor and stuff, and like young folks' relationship with work, I think, is different than it has been in the past. Hierarchies are different than they have been in the past. So like people sort of, it's kind of like socially we're practicing this thing that's like, well, maybe we can flatten hierarchies to some degree and have less of this sort of dominance structure. But young people aren't specialized. That's something that I'm thinking about as we're talking about this. Like just as you were laying out with those analogies, it takes time and experience to get specialized.
That's correct.
And I think that's what we're missing sometimes when we are trying to sort of, I think that's part of what some of the youthful mentality is missing when it's thinking, okay, well, I resent the fact, like when I was at Benton, I could have resented the fact that these C1 operators made more money for being, specialized in that field, but they knew more than me.
That's correct.
And that's the thing. Like they had more experience in that, and they were better at it than me. So we weren't really doing the same job. They were doing a better job than me. I was just like, and I was attracted to that job. And if I had stayed in that track, that probably is what I would have tried to specialize in over time. But yeah, so I mean, I guess that's what you got me thinking about a little bit, was just like that. Even in the, I don't know shit about the NFL, but even in the NBA, I think
It's all good.
there's
Same thing.
yeah, like there's in structures in general, I think that there is a resentment about specialization being the let's say the fruits of specialization, the benefits of specialization being limited to fewer people, but specialization itself is limited to fewer people in its nature because it takes a while to get that way.
Well, I mean, I'll tie this in. And are you finished?
Yeah.
My bad.
No bad.
I think I'll tie this in with the Yoda in Star Wars
Cool.
and the specialization
That'd be
piece
perfect.
all together. It's supposed to be that way, though.
Yeah.
You see? Because a seasoned person is seasoned because they have practiced more than you have, right? If you want what they have, then practice.
Right.
It's simple as that. But with the youth of today, youth are always going to be the youth. The younger people at the bottom are always going to think they're going to know better than the people at the top. And they do in a lot of aspects, right? The older people at the top are going to always be like, you young ass, you need to, learn something, right? But those two mindsets are necessary for anything to grow.
Yeah.
Because there's new growth down here, there's seasoned growth at the top, and all of them play their components together, right? They play as a team together. There's an ebb and flow with that, right? So same thing, you mentioned NBA. Kobe comes in the league and Jordan is still there. Mm-hmm. Jordan is like, I don't give a shit. You're still going to get this 40 a night. You know what I'm saying? I don't care that you can dribble and dunk, and that's good. That's cool, but I'm still the man, and I'm still going to win these championships, okay? Because I've figured out how to specialize in doing that.
Yep.
You haven't done that yet. So although you may be uber talented, you're going to wait your turn. And if you don't want to wait your turn, you're going to hurry up and wait. And what that means is you're going to, get all the scoring records. You're going to make all, defensive team, all defensive team or MVP of the league and all of that. That's all necessary because you're basically chiseling down on your craft.
Yeah.
Until you can compete for the championship. So my elder statesman view of where you are motivates you to be where I am.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thus forth, shaping you into who you're supposed to be in the first place.
Which is like, it does to actually tie beautifully into Star Wars because that's what's so beautiful about like mentorship. And
Yes.
that's what I think that is what has felt so wrong about an apparent cultural shift that kind of shifts the superiority to the young state of mind or something. And exactly as you said, it's not that there isn't value in the sort of come up generation and Gen Z or whatever and what they have to offer in terms of perspective, but we can't forget that like mentorship and leadership from more seasoned people is an extremely valuable thing for younger people.
But those older people have to be willing to share, though.
They do. You're right.
Because someone taught you.
Yeah.
And now it's your turn to teach them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what I've experienced, especially in education, is that, people work all their lives to make $60,000, right?
Yeah.
You're 60 making $60,000.
Yeah.
But when you were at 30, $60,000 was like your goal.
Yep.
Or 100,000 or 200, whatever. You get there and it's like, oh, well, there's a younger guy right here that has all of your credentials right now. And you're like, oh, shit, I'm no longer a specialist. I have to teach other specialists now. That's scary because now I don't know who I am outside of this, right? But everybody, to your point, needs a mentor. So once you become this $200,000 person or whatever, what did the last person that was making this in this position, what are they doing? You need to go find them so that you know where to step off to.
Yeah.
And that way, again, like, we were talking off camera about this. Now it's like you view your life as an alchemist. You view your life as, this continuing, never-ending story type of piece, right? Where you're not, we get to those places where we're like, oh, shit, I don't know what to do. Well, start asking yourself, you should have, when you accepted the role, you should have asked yourself, well, what's next after this? So, for instance, the end game for me would be becoming this global thought leader, as a social entrepreneur, right? And using all of that knowledge to teach people how to do exactly what we're talking about right now. How to become an alchemist in your life, right? That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Everybody just wants the best life possible. And it just so happens that in America, you kind of need a little money to do that, right? So it's not just, balling out of control and all of that, which is also cool. But it's about like, can you, for instance, with me, I found this simulator where I can simulate advertising. And I was like, can I afford to pay for this? You see what I'm saying? So that I can advance my knowledge even more so that I could practice on becoming a great advertiser. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's what it's all for at the end of the day.
I've seen people throughout the climbing the ladder, I've seen them get destroyed by this transition from specializer to teacher. They like refuse. I've seen people refuse to become a teacher, and I'm fascinated by that because I wonder if you think it's an inevitable sort of part of the progress to grow beyond, that point. But like, it's tricky. I guess it's interesting to think. Like, you think of somebody like, I don't know, you think of somebody like Steve Nash or something.
Yeah.
Great point guard, great ball player, eventually becomes a coach. The alternative is not to stay a point guard forever.
Well, you can't.
You just can't do it.
Yeah.
So it seems like you have to sacrifice one thing or the other. But I've seen people get destroyed by sacrificing the point guard thing. I've seen people get destroyed by like letting go of that identity. Kind of what you were just pointing out. Like instead of going to find that person who lays the groundwork, who can show them like this is what comes next.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, they just stop and just kind of like it freaks them the fuck out.
Yeah. Well, and great analogy, by the way. So I think that's the arrogant part of us, in human condition. It's like, did you really think you're going to be a point guard for the rest of your life? Like, you're not the only person that's ever been here before.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You're just at this point in evolution. I had an interesting thing. My buddy told me this one time. We were talking about the Bible. And we were talking about the people, the stories in the Bible. Now, again, I'm not going against anyone that's Christian or anything, but he just used this analogy, and I think it'll help just describe a little bit of what we're talking about here in terms of like evolution. He was like, man, those people in the Bible that they were writing about, the people that wrote the Bible or inspired to write the Bible, they were writing about the stories for people of the time and them living their lives. Mm-hmm. How do you know 3,000 years from now we won't be a part of the Bible?
Damn, that's quite a thought.
I was like, holy sorry, Christian Pope. But it's like, yo, so if that gives you you're just this speckle at a point in history. There's people that have come before you and people that will come behind you, where if you don't see it necessary to learn from the people that have come before you on what to do next, you won't be able to teach the generation after you. We're all teachers at the end of the day, because good. I'm not here to just get what I got, but I got it from someone to give to someone. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So going back to Star Wars, when we're talking about like, when you first start out as a Jedi, it starts with mind and understanding spirit at first, right? Yeah. Because in order to float or to move an object to your hand, you have to be able to control your anger, control your emotion and all of that, which is also one if I could go down that line for ages, but we ain't gonna do that today. But but using your mind, they understand that the mind is the most powerful thing that you have. Mm-hmm. It's all about how you think. It's all about how you feel and how you move, right? So a older Jedi, if me and you were fighting, and I've been in this thing for a long time, got grays and all of that, and you come in and you're like, you might be a great swordsman, but you can only fight with your sword because it's right here on your hip. Mm-hmm. You haven't controlled it long enough to move it from that door to over here. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Yeah. I know that I can. So if I catch you in the mess hall and you don't have your sword on you, I can zoom mine to me. You can't do that yet because you refuse to learn how to do it. Same thing with like a Harry Potter, for instance. If we're watching the Harry Potter films, it all starts with their mind. Yeah. And the words that they use to control things. See what I'm saying? Yeah. See how amazing movies are? Yeah. And how we can relay those to our lives. So it's also about that negative self-talk too. What talk are you having with yourself? Yeah. See what I'm saying? Because that's very silent, but it's very powerful. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or it can be.
The magic words part is something that's in so much of film and storytelling, and people, it does get glanced over even when we're talking about the importance of sort of hierarchical stories and like the symbolism within those stories or whatever. The magic words, man, like people don't talk about them much, but being articulate and being willing to express like who you are and what you believe and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like I think a big part of it is like being able to help sort through a mess
Mm-hmm.
by like thinking out loud with other people.
Yep.
That's such a magic power
Yes, it
in
is.
life.
It is. And I don't take that, for granted because, again, like I told you, I'm living life so that the next time I hit that Candid Yam stage, my stuff is just as sharp as it was before you saw me before, right? But if I am not responsible enough to live life, I'm giving you the same words as I did in the last show.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I love evolution stories because evolution literally means that you are, you're fighting war to war so that you're able to share it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like next season, for instance, I want to name the entire season propaganda, right? Because
Hell yeah.
I think that we have all bought into some shit that's like, this probably wasn't the best thing. Whatever that thing is, right? For some of us, it might have been education. Our generation, when we were coming out, it was all about, man, you got to go to college. And then we saw how that shit worked out.
Yeah.
It's like, college is kind of like this. You know what I'm saying? Or, and then, trades are a thing, right?
Yeah.
My dad's time having a trade, my dad once said to me that a man was invisible without a job. If you graduated high school and you didn't have a job, you were literally invisible. So taking that mindset and understanding, damn, like when we were going to, coming out of high school, it was like, if you didn't go to college, you were invisible. Or at least, you felt that way, right? Yeah. That's a collective thought, right? And so some people went to college and, are doing just fine. Some people didn't go to college and doing just fine. But we didn't know that at the time because it was like so much pressure to like go to college. But now in today's time, we have the internet. The world moves much faster than it used to. You know what I'm saying? Because when did you graduate high school? What year did you graduate?
08.
You graduated 08. So I graduated just 4 years before you. So in 2004, the world didn't move as fast.
Yeah.
When I graduated high school, I mean, we were still using, LimeWire
Yep.
to like, download music and stuff like that. And that was like the fastest thing, you know what I'm saying? To be able to search an album, download it to a CD and have it like within an hour.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As opposed to when you guys got out, you had iPods and you had, streaming services where you could just straight up just go to your phone and have it right there on your phone. When I was starting college, you had to have a phone and an iPod.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's an evolution of everything that makes the world go faster. These kids today don't even listen to iTunes a lot. They're just like, okay, it's there.
Yeah.
And you
absolutely.
like, man, this shit was the best thing since sliced bread. If you've ever ridden in a car with a CD player and went over that bump and that damn CD just bumped around, see y'all young ass man, y'all ain't go through the struggle we went through. It's like, damn, my shit's skipping,
Yep.
Or if you ever had a Discman and you had them batteries that would run out in like an hour, you'd be like, damn, as opposed to having it right on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So you think about like the evolution of things. And how fast the world moves, which is, the older people fall out of touch with that because you try to get into that groove of having a quote unquote good life. And so my dad teaching me the importance of having a job was like his thing because the thing was to have a job.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I said, I'm like, Dad, I'm not really trying to work a job, man. I'm really just going to go out here and probably create my own job. What? What do you mean? No, you should get a job. You know what I'm saying? You need to do 20 years at a job.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, I'm probably just going to create my own.
Yep.
And he like, man, I don't know how you going to make it. You see? So now these kids are like, yeah, I ain't really feeling the job. So I'm going to just go ahead and create a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? But again, the common thing that ties us all together, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2000s and beyond. The thing that ties us together is that it doesn't matter what you choose. It matters if you are willing to pay the price. Are you willing to work, fail, trial and error at that thing? Because if the answer to that is yes, then you're good. But if the answer to that is no, you might want to reevaluate.
Right. And I think part of that price identification is also because there's a price to working a job for somebody. There's a price to risking it and starting a YouTube channel, trying to be an influencer. There's a price to trying to be an artist or follow your passion. To me, a lot of the price is determined by, does it get you where you kind of envision your life going?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And even, even then, you may be able to hit, you may be able to catch lightning in a bottle and make it really fast, right? But then there are lessons to that as well. So something that comes fast may leave it just as fast. You see? And then you're stuck trying to, figure out like what's next, right? So really the curse is the success, but the gift is who you had to become to get there. So like, for instance, if someone told me today, Rashad, we need you to have a Candid Yams show at 6:00 today, I'd be like, okay. I know where to go and get my stuff. I need about an hour to prepare to get a movie and film and gyms and everything together. Maybe call some caterers. Maybe pay for some da-da-da, this, and the third. I could put together a show in like 45 minutes tops. But when I first started, I'm not doing a show at 6:00 today.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, cool. So you just got to take that on. And but that's the thing that connects us through generations, I think, is, do you want to be good at something? That's number one. Because if you don't want to be good at something, now we got to figure out like what makes you tick, right? But if you want to be good at something, that means that you don't mind doing the work. It's not a hindrance for you to like show up and do it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that is what binds us. Sometimes I hear generalized about Gen Z that like they don't give a shit about being good at anything. They don't see the point in like pursuing some ideal or whatever.
Right.
And I've met some who that's not true for. You know, I've met some that it's very clear like they're waking up to whatever, the same thing that everybody wakes up to as time goes on. And I think sometimes that's the alarm bells that are kind of false, is they think that Gen Z's condition of being young is how they're always going to be. And it's like they're going to grow out of it just
Give
like
them
we
time.
grew out of shit.
They said the same shit about us.
Exactly.
They said the same shit about millennials.
Yeah.
And we're just fine.
Yeah.
And the world is still turning.
You age out of shit.
Like, damn, guys. But every parent generation has said that about the younger generation.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing. It's kind of like living in this is another movie reference, Back to the Future, Marty McFly situation. You see what I'm saying? It's like everybody's parents think that if they don't, make something of themselves, that they can see that they're going to be a failure in life. That's not true. Let them explore, let them experience. Let them understand, because you got a chance to do that, or maybe you didn't get a chance, and the reason why you're rushing them. But either way, when they find something they want to do, I promise you, they're going to be fine. Because the other part about Gen Z or younger generation or whatever, the younger generation have always wanted to see life the way that they wanted to see it. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to give you another dope movie reference in a minute, but kids are seeing life for the first time through their eyes for the first time. So at 5 years old, that was the first time you had seen life through your eyes. Can you chill out and let me see what I'm seeing here? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, damn, man. Okay. It ain't nothing but grass out there in the yard. Okay, but it's my grass. All right? Damn, let me just chill for a second. Let me experience this. Oh, man, it ain't nothing but some trees outside. Well, they're wonderful trees, okay? Shit, let me feel the wind from them. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, calm down.
Yeah.
And I think we just, older people sometimes, can forget that life is just simple. Some things you just want to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Movie reference. Kevin Bacon in Footloose. All they wanted to do was dance, guys. That's all they wanted to do. Let them dance. It's cool. We know that you went to your little boring dances back in the day, and everybody was, just, looking at, hey, everybody's just looking at, you need to be this many feet apart. That's not how we do it. We like to be a little more close in this day and age. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's like, just give us some time. And old people are impatient about where young people need to be, and young people are just like, well, just let me see.
100%, man.
Just let me see what's going on, man.
So speaking of old people and Yoda and all that, I meant to say, so when we're talking about Yoda, you made me remember a quote that I like a lot that I think is relevant to all this, which is something about like, better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
Nice.
And as we were talking about peaceful conditions and mentorship and all this stuff, I don't know, you just brought it to mind.
Yeah.
And the idea of peace, I guess, being this temporary thing or something.
Yeah.
Being capable, being like ready for other conditions.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I wanted to go back to that.
Yeah.
Tell me about this quote about the peace being temporary.
So I'll put it into this analogy. When we were going to school, kindergarten started, right? And at first, when you were going to school, it was all about learning how to be a student.
Mm-hmm.
Learning that you put your coat here, you sit down here, you pay attention to the big tall person standing in the middle of the room, right? You hear a bell, that's when lunch is. You go to lunch, you eat, you come out of lunch, then you're going to go outside. You come back in, get your coat, it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? I promise you at kindergarten, you were not thinking about the day that you're graduating from high school.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And through that aptitude of learning from kindergarten through 12th grade, that school is designed to teach you something that you perform over and over again until you graduate high school, right? So let's just say that you particularly had a difficult time with 5th grade, because 5th grade is where algebra or geometry was presented, for instance. And you remember, damn, for the first time in my life, I really have to study this. My mom is getting on me, she's getting on my ass about, doing my homework, right? And, that's the war, right? Because all the other, there's some people in the war that are just good at geometry, and they just breeze through it. And you find it a little more of an uphill climb, which is fine. But you don't think that it's fine at that time, because it's like, this shit sucks. Like, I literally can't play Nintendo because I have to study damn geometry, right? And it's not until you take your time with it, you start understanding it, developing a sense of understanding, taking that understanding and performing that on tests and passing the test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you're still not thinking about graduation. You're just thinking about the war that's right in front of you.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Miniature war.
Right? So then you get over that. You pass 5th grade. Now you're in 6th grade. But the summer between 5th and 6th grade, you got a letter saying, hey, Tyler, congratulations. You completed the 5th grade and you are now being promoted to the 6th grade. Do you remember that? Do you remember how good of a time that was? It was like, damn, man, like I'm really like moving to big kid school now. You know what I'm saying? But you didn't think about, oh shit, I'm gonna have to study math again.
Yeah.
Another level of math in 6th grade. And so that summer, we all couldn't wait till summer got out, because we all could go to swimming pools and play baseball and run and catch, lightning bugs and all these different things in the summer, because that was a time of peace. Traveling with the family, having cookouts, hanging with your crazy uncle, that sort of thing, playing with your dog, catching goldfish, whatever we did in the summertime was like our time. But then when school started again, it all kind of took on that time again. Like, you got prepared again, right? So going back to school shopping, getting a new trapper keeper, getting new paper, getting a new book bag, understanding that this is when you're starting school, or I got to ride the bus. And then after some years of doing that, your body and mind and spirit and everything got used to going back into war, because you're going to learn something new every year, and you had to perform. You knew at the end of the day, all of us knew by the time we got to middle school that you're going to have to perform at that end of grade test. So you knew that all of the skills that you're practicing, they're probably going to ask you again at the end of the year. And most of us that graduated high school had to go through 15 years of that.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Of constant war and peace. Now, we may not have identified it as war and peace, but you had to learn. The basic thing is that you had to learn something, get over something to, get to that peace. But the question is, why don't we calculate that into our lives when we become adults, that we have literally overcome something in our lives for 15 years? Like, why don't we credit that as success?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a good question.
Like, you literally have this wonderful treasure trove of success, of literal proof of trial and error for 15 years that you can dig into at any time and say, man, I can get over this. What were the principles that I was taught? To study, slow my mind down, learn it, and perform it. Now tell me if that's not a formula for anything in life.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why do we get depressed about, why is there even a thought that we can't do it? Because of that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's not just the only source, but it's like we allow life to distract us in ways that we don't need to be distracted.
I think in addition to that too, the student mentality has an authority to look to.
Yeah.
And of course, in life, you could make the argument that not only do you have the state to look to, but you have, like, for some people who have religious views, they have like those two of those authorities to look to, or they have their own like hierarchical. When you work for somebody else, you have a boss to look to, and they are your authority on this matter. But I think that is, for a lot of people, transitioning from school into the professional realm, it's kind of like going from, I don't know, David Goggins in training versus David Goggins, the dude who has to be responsible for staying in that mentality of being like a boss motherfucker, like all the time.
Right.
And I think for some people, it's a little more comfortable to stay in that soldier in training than it is to that soldier who's responsible for themselves.
Correct.
Kind of mentality.
Well, and that's a perfect point. And so responsibility comes with pain too. You see? Because you have to constantly do it, right? You have to constantly stay in practice, constantly stay here and there, right? Which is the reason why some of us are corporate level CEOs and, are top 1% or whatever have you, right? Because, life is built for those types of people sometimes. But whether you wanted to admit it or not, we all have a mission that we must complete in life.
Yeah.
All of us do, and that mission has a destination, you get to be the author of that, and so to some people it's too much pressure to even take that on as a person. Oh man, it's too much pressure. I don't want to put that much pressure on myself in life. But pressure's going to be there because it's life.
Yeah, exactly.
Life doesn't give a shit about what you think you want to go through. You're going to go through it. So either you deal with it, right up front, or life has a way of dealing with you. And you may not like the way that life deals with you at this point. So for instance, if we knew that we weren't eating correctly at 20 and we ate that way for 40 years, are you surprised that you developed diabetes at 65? Life dealt with that. So it's basically like, if you don't eat well and you make a practice of not eating well, then life has consequences because of that.
Yep. And
some people like to tend to ignore that fact, which is fine if you want to ignore that fact. But if someone that did not ignore that fact, you can't criticize them for that. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But that is not a part of how we live. Most people will criticize you for wanting to live correctly or, eat correctly, and you not have diabetes or have those types of problems, because all of us are going to have some sort of ailment because, we just are, right? But the people that didn't eat well, or the people that, participated in smoking cigarettes for 30 years or whatever have you, they want to, point the finger, or with people, people that are not smoking cigarettes just don't live a better life than me.
That is especially, it seems, true at this stage in our culture for some reason. Like this thing has been born where it's sort of like idealism being put ahead of brute fact.
Yes.
And people are comfortable kind of expressing stuff like that. Like, hey, don't don't shame anybody for anything kind of thing we've landed on.
Right.
Where obviously from that language it would suggest that like talking about health and the distinctions between health and non-health
Yes.
is shameful towards
Yes.
somebody else, which is like, that's not how I'm intending anything. I'm not trying to shame anybody for anything,
Right.
but by making it like just making a distinction between two things, I don't think has to be considered shaming.
Correct.
you
But
know?
it's all about how you feel.
Yeah.
But the thing is that something, like you said, some things are just brass tacks. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
You don't spend life, taking care of yourself. Life will take care of you.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Straight up.
That's just the fact of life.
What do you think is more valuable to you between the war or the peace?
The war.
The war.
Yeah. Because you're going to learn so much more about yourself. So going back to the David Goggins example, right?
Uh-huh.
In the book, when he gets in buds, right? Because let's talk about the war and peace. His war was losing weight to even take the test to get into Navy SEALs. So you're thinking, damn, he passed the test, and I think he needed like between a 71 and a 90 or something like that, some crazy number like that to get into Navy SEALs. He made a 71 on the dot.
Damn.
So
I didn't know that.
So like, what the hell? Okay. So that's number one. Made exactly a 71 to get in. And you're thinking like, if he'd ended the book there, that within itself is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
No. Goes into buds training, which is, their, what they call their training to go into Navy SEALs. He gets into buds and going through, rigorous training every day and all of this, cold water and all of that. And he's like, this is actually hell for real. Right? Busts his kneecap up to the point where, when he's squatting and doing duck walks and stuff like that, he can literally hear the bones crackling in his knee. Okay? He's taping his knee up every day to go out there and make it through. So that's the hell part. That's the war part, right? Because now you're not only just dealing with things that outside of you, you're dealing with internal little, things that are going on in your body.
Yeah.
Which right there, what I just described is most people's governor. Hey man, if I pop my knee or if I get a nail in my finger at any point, I ain't trying to do this shit that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's just like, man, let me keep going. They had to write this man out of the military for him to go and heal himself. And they were like, look, man, you can't continue like this, bro. Like your knee is literally fragmented and fractured in so many places that you're literally going to have to sit your ass down. And he's like, damn. All right. So then he's given peace that he didn't want, which is also, necessary sometimes because you got to heal. You can't injure yourself beyond repair.
Yeah.
Or, you can, but that'd be your own prerogative, but you don't need it. Sometimes it's just not that deep. So sometimes peace is given to you even though you don't want it, but it's necessary. So then he goes back into buds for a second time. Gets in, reclasses. Going through buds the second time, he breaks both his femur bones and has to tape them up. Gets double pneumonia. See? Because now we're thinking, oh man, my knee is good.
Right.
I'm going to reclass back up and everything's going to be gravy now because I've already I understand what type of rigor I have to get through this. But your body fails you. And by the way, this is the last time you can go through buds. You can only go through buds twice. So I think, what we're talking about here is that not only, will you accept the trial and error piece, the war and peace, type of thing? What are the lessons that you're learning here? And the lesson that the reason why I shared all of that is the lesson that he learned is that your body and your mind can go further than you think they can go.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that you hadn't been put to the test for something you care about long enough to understand how far you can go.
Yeah.
So then that gets you to wondering as a human being, is there truly anything in life that we cannot do? Obviously you have to have talent at it and, all these different things, but I'm talking about something that you have a talent in that you could, for instance, for you, if you, I don't know who your superstar is in your guitar world, right? If you said, well, I want to get good enough to play with this person, right? Could you truly not do that?
Right.
Or do you not want to go through the stress and strain necessary to do that? And to see, it's at that point when I ask that question to most people, that governor is there. It's like, nah, I'm not really trying to go through that, right? But why not? Let's explore that. Why don't you want to go through that? Do you not think that you're worthy? Do you not think that it can happen? Do you not? Because me personally, I don't think there's anything that, in the Candid Yam space, if film play, I could be having the same conversation with George Lucas in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, George, man, let me ask you something real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I truly, honestly believe if there's something, because our universes are not, we're living on the same planet. George Lucas puts his pants on just like I put mine on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like I told you earlier in the conversation, like I literally be introducing myself to people like they know me and shit. Hey, man, Rashad, man. You know what I'm saying? And so answering that question and like really getting down to the fear of it all. People are really scared of like their real potential, for real. Like
Absolutely.
for real. It's a real thing. And I don't think people will go far because that real fear is that governor in their mind. Like I truly can't go past this place. Yes, you can. You're just afraid of who you have to become in order to do that.
That part it rings so true to me, and it's so mysterious. And when we talk about peace and war,
Mm-hmm.
it's reminding me of other language for this sort of conflict, this sort of binary conflict, like order and chaos is a term that is often used, or a comparison point or whatever that's often used. Comfort and discomfort comes to mind, and that's something I've been reflecting on a lot lately. Is just like I'm comfortable most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like so rarely cause myself to be uncomfortable, and I'm starting to feel the need to look for opportunities to be uncomfortable. Because it's just like and I think as you've been talking, I think I like the question I'm asking myself is like, is our way of life right now, does it produce too much comfort for some portion of people? And I think it does, and I'm curious about what you think about that, and I'm also curious how we can understand. I'm sure that either of us has experienced it at different points, but like the mysterious nature of being afraid of one's own potential when it's mostly, you would think it's mostly good things that are out there, that are a part of your potential.
Yeah.
Potential, by the way, is a word that I was a materialist, atheist, sort of like anti-theist person for a while, and the word potential is what made me change is what led me to put away a lot of that commitment to those beliefs, because the word potential is so fucked, because it's immaterial. It's immaterial, but it's real.
Yes, it is.
Like, it's something that I can acknowledge about different people and see that they can be something. Like, and there's like, it's almost like in a different realm of reality, they are that thing already.
Yes.
But they aren't it yet.
Yes.
And it's hard to justify why we get scared of that.
Well, I think we're taught that fear. We're introduced to that through limit, because I mean, I don't want to understate this, but you literally learn about that through education, because you spend the most time there. So it's literally about what you're introduced to and what you think you're capable of based off of your learning environment. You see. So if you had parents that thought like me, for instance, right? Well, what is it you want to do, Tyler? Or, like, what is it that you're interested in doing? And then we would explore that as a family together. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not about like, oh, well, he wants to tinker around with the guitar. Well, why is he interested in the guitar? Is it because of how it feels? Does it make him feel a certain type of way? Like, hey, man, let's get him some lessons. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But most people don't do that. They're like, man, forget all that, man. You need to really learn geometry. That's where the good jobs are. See what I'm saying?
That exact thing, what I was referring to earlier, I have a memory of being like, I don't know, how old was I? Maybe 18 or 19, and being like, yeah, I'm going to start working out. And a family member being like, you don't know anything about that. And like, I know people who work out and it's such an important part of their lifestyle and they have to commit a lot of time to it. And you're not going to take it seriously. Like, you're not going to commit yourself to it. That was a family member responding to my budding interest.
Yes.
Just like absolutely pissing on it.
And just decimating it. Yeah.
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 And I didn't do it.
Yeah. And see, it's at that point, where did he or she or that family member learn limits? See, this is a rhetorical question, but it's like, I cringe at the fact that human beings crush kids like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're also taught different things, right? You shouldn't be with these kids. You should be with these kids. You shouldn't sit with them. You should sit with them. You shouldn't go over there and do this because of this, right? So the political agendas, the racial agendas, the social agendas that we have placed against us are all bullshit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Because if you go through pain, you know, like let's just say we live in two different, I'll say this. I had a best friend, his name was Craig. Me and Craig, he was white, I was black. He lived 2 houses up from me, and we would go and play all the time. It wasn't until we almost graduated high school that some of the same stuff that was going on in his house, right, parents fighting, stuff like that, was the same stuff that was going on in my house. And what we found out is that we shared in that pain together, but we had never talked about it. And what that got me to realize is that pain doesn't care who it visits. It doesn't care about how tall or short or, you know, overweight you are, whether or not you're white, you're black. It doesn't care. It just wants to share it with you. Misery loves what? Company. See what I'm saying? And so again, circling it back to, you know, the things that we want to do in life, it would just as easy it was to shut you down, it could have been easier to support you at the same time.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, Tyler, well, you want to work out? What do you want to work out for? You want to look good? You know what I'm saying? What hell? Let's take him over to Gold's Gym. Let's let him meet some people, some big buff guys, or you know, which guy do you want to look like? That guy right there. Hey, guy, come over here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, my man want to learn how to work out, and you know what he would have done? Hey, man, come on over here with me, little man. This is how you curl.
Yeah.
Do about 10 of these, and do it on the other arm. Do that for about 2 weeks, and then come back.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just invest in him. I mean, damn, man. You just gonna kill my man dream just because, I mean, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it gets you to wonder, like, how do people learn limits in life and then make those as a part of your life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. And I like when you're around people who encourage and when you're around people who they function the other way. I don't know if it's nurture or where it comes from, but you know, you do encounter people in the world where they respond to other people with encouragement and with like just enthusiasm. A guy I used to work with at Aperture, actually, he was kind of the quintessential enthusiastic sort of, you told him any news and he was just like blown away. He was just so happy to hear that was happening. Yeah. And it made you be like, you know, like if I'm looking for that, if I'm like looking to feel a little bit more encouraged in something that I'm interested in, I'm going to look for that person. I'm going to like go find that person and get support from them and like build community around that. Yeah. It's a valuable person to be. It's a valuable way to be in life. For sure. To fucking embrace other people's passions in that way.
Which is what makes me so interesting. Because I would show up. If you said, man, I think I want to learn how to surf, I'd be like, shit, that sounds like an awesome idea. Where are we going to learn how to do this? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That shit sounds kind of crunk, bro. Let's do that. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, damn, all right, cool. Because life is about exploration. It's about constant boundary takedown. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know where you learn to be limitless in that way?
I don't think I could pinpoint it, but let's just say I went through a lot of pain in my family's life. And I was like, this ain't the only way you can live life. I know that.
So a little of that is perhaps discovery through your own trial and error and just path.
Yeah, man, just path and trauma, you know, going through different things, understanding that the way that people are made up, you know, is the way that they're made up. That doesn't mean that you have to be made up the same way. I read this book one time, The Pursuit of Happiness book, The Pursuit of Happiness film. Yeah. I actually read the book. And I was reading, when I was reading the book, I found that Chris Garner came from an extensive amount of pain and trauma in his household. Seeing his mom get beat to a pulp by his stepdad having some, drinking and alcohol issues and all of that. And for him to be able to fight through all of that and be the intelligent person that he is like, whoa. If that within itself doesn't tell you that life has something in store for all of us, as long as we keep on living and exploring and continue to ask ourselves questions that are the curious nature. You know what I'm saying? Your mind has nothing but to discover new beginnings if you ask it questions. Because your mind, if you ask your mind a question, it's going to want to figure out the answer. But again, it goes back to that negative talk. The quality of your life, for me, is based off of the quality of questions that you're asking yourself and the quality of the answers that you're getting from those questions.
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of life might be determined from the quality of the questions that you're
Asking to yourself. And the results from those questions.
Damn.
Yep.
That is really interesting.
Yep. Because remember now, like I said, the golden rule is you ask your mind something and it's going to seek that out. Like, for instance, the simulator I was telling you about, the advertising simulator, as I'm, going on this journey to learn Google, Facebook, advertising and all of that, I've been doing it the whole time. But when you don't have clients, you don't practice. And vice versa, you don't practice because you don't have clients, right? So clients go in and out and all of this. And you get in a good groove of, learning how money, operates in the Facebook, whatever realm. I was like, man, as I'm learning how to get these certificates and stuff like that, it really would be good to have a dojo, like a simulator of sorts. Let me Google. I find a advertising simulator. You put your information. There's this company that offers. It's kind of like Canvas, for students, but they've created this whole program of an advertising simulator for people like me that want to practice all the time. You set up an appointment with someone, put your name, number in, they call you. And now all of a sudden, just based off of a thought, my mind has prompted me to action, put it in, I search for it, and now there's a reality that I have now that I can practice advertising.
Which takes you further. Yeah.
See how and that just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I literally have made a life out of asking myself questions. How do I do this and how do I do that? How do I do this and how do I do that? Let me Google it. Like my phone's over there. But doing that experiential marketing piece, right? I'm like, damn, man, I wonder if any companies are ChatGPT is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
It is pretty fucking cool.
Like I'll be asking this shit like, oh man, I wanted this. Oh man.
Yeah.
Give me the resources for this. So anyway, so I'm doing that one day and get to this outfit out of Europe that it's called Creative Movie or something like that. And they do what I do in Europe.
Hell yeah.
And just create whole stages and sound sets and all of that off of films. And it's an exclusive ordeal. You have to be invited to it.
Damn.
I was like, damn, that's awesome. Ain't no telling what they charging for them damn tickets. You know what I'm saying? But to know that something like that exists in the world is like, somebody was asking some damn questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Man,
I don't know what your original question was, but yeah.
Oh, I don't know, but that ChatGPT,
yeah.
GPT,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been using it for sort of just helping me knock out some of the to-do list stuff.
Yeah,
Marby, she's just checking on us real quick. She keeps disrupting my way of thinking though. I've been using it for some creative stuff, like so. I've got some script ideas that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. I am very interested in getting into script writing as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been just using it to like, I'll just type in sort of the foundation of the story and be like, give me a bit of an outline and it'll give me an outline for the script. And then I'll mess with it until it's a little bit more to my liking, because
Yep.
it does come out kind of generic and it misses some of the ideas. But just like it pulling from information and getting a couple things in order, it just like saves so much fucking time.
So much time. And you get to move on your idea as well.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you really wanted to like bang it out, you could really just, write your script and put it in, just that and third. Next thing you know, you got a script reading.
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And now,
Saving you time, man.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, that's what life is all about. If you think of life as a continual adventure for you, it's like the next saga, right? Again, with Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's nothing but a story. When I found out that Star Wars was a story being told backwards, I was like, damn, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Who would think of that? You know what I'm saying? George Lucas would. But like, again, with this video, and I'll share that video with you as well. But
Please do.
I delved into African spirituality as well, like just understanding where all of this, origin of civilization and kind of, that sort of thing. Like just really interested in that piece and what ancient Africans believed in Egypt and Kemet and Nubia and all these different places. What they believed was that they were not separate from the earth and the evolution of things. They were here. They believed that they were here to serve the environment through whatever craft or mastery that they served it through, raise a family, teach them, die, and taught them how to do that over and over again. They did not see themselves separate from the mountains, the ocean, the dirt, the plants. They felt that they were this. And for my Christian folk that are listening, from dust you are, dust you will return.
Yeah.
They really thought that
Yeah.
and lived it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And so if we approach life just taking that little gem there, and you're like, man, I'm not separate from any of this. And so now it gives you purpose. Like, well, what am I supposed to plug into this human thing?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It makes your
A whole
life so
different
much
thing.
more interesting.
Yeah.
So for instance, with you in script writing, you might write the next great script. No one knows until you start reading and writing and start doing. Ideas start coming to you. And then all of a sudden you've developed a script, and now you've written a script for what's the name of the movie, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you've developed a script like that, and you're like, oh shit, this literally started from an idea.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And as long as you keep believing that stuff is supposed to happen like that, now you're living life, my man.
I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I have to let you go soon, but I have
all
to
good.
ask you the most obvious question
It's all
that I possibly could. Do you ever see yourself get into filmmaking?
Not at this point. But I will say that I do see myself in California at some point rubbing shoulders with the people that make films.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
like do you see yourself involved in filmmaking, just not or in
Yeah.
some way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because it's like a kindred spirit, Because at some point, I'm going to have to tell the filmmakers that I'm using their films in my day-to-day to really develop, lifestyle in terms of like letting people know that you can live the best life and thanking them for that,
Yeah.
right? So, we'll be connected with that. So I can definitely see myself doing that piece. You know what
I
I'm saying?
could too. Yeah.
So I never say never.
Yeah, and I could definitely see. I mean, your interest in the way that you use film, I could see being something that's adapted on the marketing side of films.
Yes.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I know you love 007,
Yep.
Indian in the Cupboard.
Yeah.
Grease.
Don't forget about Grease.
Grease. I almost forgot Grease.
The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton.
Yep.
Huh?
Indian in the Cupboard, man, is still the one that I think too, and because I have my memories of that gold VHS box, that had the little keyhole, the skeleton keyhole on the side.
Yep.
And the first editions came with that little figure,
Yep.
like in the box
Yep.
or whatever. Yeah, that's a childhood memory I still have locked
That's what I'm
away in
saying,
there
man.
somewhere. It was brilliant. Like it brought about this idea in my head as a kid that was like, God, if I could just get my toys to come to life, that would be the coolest shit imaginable.
Yes, it would.
It would be amazing.
Yes. I mean, I remember watching is it Toy Soldiers?
Yeah.
And I was like going to church one day, and I was like, I wonder if my toys come alive when I'm not there. Or Toy Story, for instance.
Yep.
It's like, man, I wonder if my toys really talk to one another. Let me set them up then.
Yeah.
And if they move when I come back, I'll know something. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, like using your imagination like that is so healthy as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
You just like, okay, cool. But so that imagination is rewritten in stories all over again.
Man, I'm sorry she's
It's all good.
Come here. Lay down, kid. Come on.
That story and that imagination is fueled by, constant, like, because I thought the Harry Potter was a bum of a movie or bum of a franchise. Did I tell you that?
No, I didn't know that.
Dude, back in the day when I was in middle school, my teacher started, because you used to go to like homeroom. Did y'all go to homeroom before classes started and stuff?
Yeah.
So my teacher, shout out to Miss Samuels, she would read Harry Potter to us. And I was like, who the hell is going to be into this crap? Year and a half later, movies coming out, Focus, they wearing, capes and shit like that for Halloween.
Yep.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is it's kind of crazy.
It blew up.
Yeah. And so I thought about that in the sense of like, man, I remember when Jurassic Park came out. I'll still right now today, it could be the shittiest Jurassic Park ever, and I'll be right there in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Because it just ties all the way back to like my childhood. And going to get a Happy Meal with the, T-Rex on the front of it. They were making cups at that time with like T-Rex heads and stuff like that with straws and shit. And I remember I had a Raptor watch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like I had all of that stuff. And it was like, never mind, I'm going to let these kids live. So whatever they're excited about, let them be excited.
I went to see a movie yesterday for the first time in a very long time. And it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and saw, do you fuck with any stand-up comedians?
Dave Chappelle, stuff like that. Cat Williams, that sort of something.
Yeah, I love Dave. So there's these two guys that are in that family, Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but pretty successful stand-up comedians, successful podcasters and stuff. And so this guy, Bert, went viral years ago because of this crazy story about him going to Russia and stuff. And it's how he got famous, but then like his stuff was pretty good, so people stuck with him. And also his podcast was pretty entertaining, and people just like the fan base just built and built. And finally, like he ended up with a fan base large enough that somehow Sony greenlit him for a movie based on this Russia story.
I think that go ahead.
The Machine. I don't know if you've seen.
No, I have not seen that. But I remember this. But go on.
Okay. So yeah. So he got a movie deal for this thing, and for a lot of us who are fans of like that whole crew, like the sort of extension of, I don't know, the LA podcast and comedy scene or whatever, it was like, oh, this is exciting because we've been following these guys for so long, and they just got a movie deal, and like this movie's getting nationally, distributed and shit. And it made me think that maybe a new phase in movies eventually, and maybe a part of this whole sort of extension of social media thing is being more directly invested in the people who create these things.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt.
Because I'm thinking about like Jurassic Park, and as a kid, and sort of, it might also come with adulthood and seeing people as equals instead of as adults and children or whatever.
Yeah.
But because as when Jurassic Park came out, it's like that's what very, very few adults do, is like make movies. That's what Steven Spielberg does.
Right.
And it's like now I know people who make movies and like who do shit and who have been in movies or whatever.
Right.
But also like I can like actually see what these guys talk about every week on their podcast, and I've like listened to them talking about looking forward to making this movie. And I don't know, I think maybe that'll be a new horizon in filmmaking, is like the people that you actually give a shit about artistically, you might be a little bit more emotionally invested in the movies that get made over time because of this weird relationship we have with these personas through social media or whatever.
I agree with you. There's you ever heard of Nipsey Hussle?
Nah.
So Nipsey Hussle was a rapper in California who has since, deceased. He was I think he was 34, 35 when he was gunned down. But I say that because at that time he had created a proud to pay system where he didn't have a record deal, and he got people to invest in him. I think he had a mixtape, and he had them to invest $100 in that mixtape. And because of that $100, you'd always be tied to this network. Whenever he had shows, you'd be texted first and all of this, right? And people really bought into this. And Jay-Z bought 100 copies of his $100 mixtape.
Damn.
And made him like, a millionaire overnight. Right? Or 100 or 1,000 copies. I think he bought 1,000 copies. And he had an instant fan base, plus the music was good. And so from there, he took his fan base and opened up the first digital store in South Central LA, where you could buy a sweatshirt from him, and there was a barcode on the inside of the sweatshirt that he had connected to a database, and he could release videos on it, and he could release, new books or new sweaters or new merchandise. So, with you having that sweatshirt, you could have it for 2 years, and he could say, hey, people that has our brand on, you could scan the code, and you could see my new video right now.
Damn.
See what I'm
so
saying?
Smart, yeah, and it's direct connection. Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? So to your point, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly for you. When you develop your film, you could literally have a little niche way that people can hey, we're gonna have this screening tonight. We're going to give you the location at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Be there at 5 though. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People will come. They'll be able to interact with you, and it'll literally be like, your niche group, which is what people really dig.
Yep.
Like for me with Candid, if I say, Tyler, man, we're going to have this thing over here, this warehouse piece. You're going to show up. There's going to be all kind of cool shit there. It might be something you hadn't seen in years. I don't know what it might be. Like, for instance, if I was doing Edward Scissorhands or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And you show up and there's a replica of Edward Scissorhands just sitting there. And you're like, damn, how do you get a replica? You know what I'm saying? It's just like that instant connection. It's like that weird connection with different things that people have, but it's a weird connection with a million people like that.
That's I'm really glad you talked about that, because that's exactly what I need to be thinking about shit like that for my own
sure.
like music career and podcasts and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it sounds like, I think that's a perfect note for us to start to wrap on, which is
Right.
what's on the horizon. You just kind of hinted at what's on the horizon for Candid Yams.
Yeah.
So maybe a good thing to do would just be to kind of touch on like whatever you have coming up. That like, is there what's the next Candid Yams things that people could look into and start to
I have
participate in?
two things coming up. I have the Sample Syrup Party, which is the party that it's an ode to music lovers. So if you like listening to oldies, we have oldies and new music or whatever, where the samples of that music will be played at that party. So if there's a sample that was used by Stevie Nicks or Phil Collins or whatever, we'll play the new version of that song, and it'd be a whole party like that. So I'm having that on Friday, June the 16th, at this place called Sections in Charlotte.
Very nice.
And then on July the 7th, I'm actually having a Candid Yams Kickback actual show in DC. It'll be my first show in DC at this place called Lydia's on H Street. And I'm so excited about that because the guy who owns Lydia's is also a master chef. So dude he has like this Korean, Creole and like American style background. So like the Candid Yams are gonna have like a little different like Caribbean Creole vibe to them and everything. Bruh, I was like, this is gonna be epic. So I'm doing Love Jones there, and then I'll probably do an event down in Atlanta, but I haven't put that together yet. But it'll probably be the week before Thanksgiving. So yeah.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that. That
Thank you, man.
sounds epic. That's going to be awesome.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But again, rolling the dice. I've never had a show in DC. It may be one person there, but guess who's gonna deliver? Me. I'm gonna be right in there talking to whoever the hell is in there. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
You got to roll the dice. I don't have a market in DC yet.
Yeah, man. You got to start.
But you never will if you don't, roll the dice. See, guys, I practice what I preach. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
Just roll the dice, man. You never know. But those are my upcoming things, and I also have some podcast things that I want to get into, so on and so forth. But because I think that podcasting and what I'm doing in between that needs to kind of coincide. But we'll see, man. But yeah, that's what I got going on.
I mean, you're right. Podcasting is a great, like, I don't know about you, but for me, creating just content all the time for the sake of it is harder, and doing something like this that's a little more what I feel like this is worth people's time.
I agree.
Compared to if I'm like, I don't know, just making silly YouTube videos or something.
Correct.
Like this seems worth it to me.
Right.
And I think for other people, like, I think as a way to stay involved in what you do, I think it'd be a great way to go. And I think you'd be great at it. So if
Thank you.
I don't know, whatever you have in mind, I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Absolutely. I look forward to this as well. I mean, I've obviously watched your show. Did I request to be on here?
I think I don't remember how it started first.
Yeah. I was like, I think, just based off of the first time we sat down, at Aperture, and I think we've been, maybe try to craft something, since that time, I think.
Yep.
And, you're just a cool guy, man. I appreciate, a lot of stuff that you do. And I just will just about do anything or, whatever you ask me to do, because I just dig who you are as a person, man. You're a cool guy, man. For real.
Same to you, really.
I really appreciate it, man.
I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, same to you. Something about when we finally got to talk in more detail for exposure, it was very interesting and enlightening to me, because it was just like, you're very easy to talk to. But also, like, I get this sense that maybe it's the whole non-limitations thing that you've been talking about, but I get talking to you, I get no feeling that there's any significant differences between us that would keep us from understanding each other. Nope. And which is funny, because looking from the outside, like, our ethnic differences, you're taller than me, you're more handsome than me, you're more charismatic, all these things. But despite all of that, you're one of the most easy people to talk to that I've ever talked to, I think.
Yeah, man. And I pride myself. I appreciate that for you, paying attention to that part, because I literally have been like this my entire life. Like, for real, because there's something that I can learn from everybody, and I think I'll die like that, man, because life is about the adventure. It's about understanding who Tyler is, and, like, just, if you would invite me back to this wonderful house one day and it's like, hey, man, we having chili, I'll be like, shit, what time? What do I need to bring? You know what I'm saying? Because anytime you get a chance to hang around people that are different than you, get ready. You're getting ready to learn some different shit about yourself that you didn't know that, might be, awaken a whole different path for you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think people should be excited about. Not this whole quarantine ass, I don't think, don't be weird, man. Like, live life, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be weird, yo.
Don't be weird is the best note to end on, I think. Weird, don't be fucking weird, y'all. Rashad Little, I guess I'll sign us off for today. Thank you again for your time, and expect that invitation to show up in your text box.
Oh, for sure, man. Thank you.